Good morning and welcome to day 18 of this crazy experiment. I'm going to say something that makes no sense. If days were years, then the amount of days of our tutorial series would be old enough to vote. That doesn't really make any sense at all, but maybe it makes as much sense as trying to create an NES game in 2025. So here we are, making no sense. Guys, 20 minutes today. I promise we're going to stay as close to 20 minutes as possible. I know we went 40 minutes yesterday. I know that was an extra long one, but a lot of that had to do because I was trying to explain some of the more complicated scripting stuff that we were doing for those of you who are not assembly language programmers yet. And so I hope that helped a little bit, sort of the extra explanation. And it also laid the groundwork for finishing up this push block stuff that we want to do today. So we can do a lot of stuff with this push block. So let me just do a little reminder of where we are. We can do a lot of stuff with this push block. But I have an idea. We're not going to have push blocks on every screen, I would imagine. And when we do, we're going to have to move it into a certain position, right? And so let's say we have to move it. Let's say we have to move it right into this block right here. We want that. A wall, like a door will open, a lock will open, and then we'll be able to access the last diamond, which will allow us to get to the next screen. So that's basically what we're going to do today. And we've laid so much of the groundwork already. So if we go into our script settings and we look at our pre-draw script, that's where we're going to start. Our sprite pre-draw, which is in game, edit. We've been there a bunch of times this week. All this stuff right here. Here's the great news. We have already, we've already sort of gotten the position that we want to change. So we've changed tile collision. Guess what we can also do? We now have the temp A, right? This plus temp A that we've stored into temp one. Temp one is now the offset from our collision table. And so we can read to see what, if I wanted to check to see what tile is in that position, I could do this. And don't do this yet, but I could go load Y with temp 1 and load collision table, comma, Y. This would give me what tile type is actually there. So I can look to see, hey, in that spot, if it is a special tile, we can do something significant, so I can make sort of a triggered tile. Now, we've got to take into consideration, and we talked a little bit about this with this part right here. See this right here? What is happening when we are playing our game? I want to explain this. This has to do with trying to integrate a scrolling system as a universal into all these modules. So let me explain what's actually happening here with these two different collision tables. What actually happens is if I hit Control P while I'm on the emulator, it brings up my picture processing unit, and that's going to help visualize this. I'm going to hit Start, and I'm loading in. And what you'll see is you see two name tables worth of information loaded. And the reason for that is if I had a scrolling game, it would load the screen that I'm loading. It would load half of the screen that's in front of me and load half the screen that's behind me. So that way, if I started moving to the right, I've got this cushion area and I would start updating half a screen away this tile. So this you see almost a white line around here. That's the camera. The camera would start to move to the right, and I'd always half a screen away. I'd update the column with the new tile information. Eventually, I'd loop right back around, and this camera would be half. The left half would be over here, and the right half would be over here, and I'd always stay 8 sort of tiles ahead, right? And the same thing moving to the left. That's why I've got this section as the screen that's behind me, because again, if I move left, my camera moves to here, and I want to see the screen that's to the left of me, and then I would update this way, and I'd start to update these rows as my camera started to slide to the left. Well, I also have a second collision table, and it does the same thing. It loads the collisions for this side of the screen and the collisions for this side of the screen. And the way that it's handled is the one on the left is always collision table, and the one on the right is always collision table 2. And that way I could actually have things off. So if a Goomba walked off the screen and then hit a block over here, it would eventually come back. You'd have half a screen worth of collision data. That could be sort of. Now, this is not the only way to do scrolling and collisions with scrolling or whatever. This is just the way that this module and these modules that come default with NESmaker 4.x work. So we're going to have to deal with this, but I suggest let's keep this for a cleanup day because we've got to do this in the shooting script too. If you've been making a game and you made a second screen on an odd number screen and you try to put a statue in, you noticed some weird results. because it only read from collision table. So if you're on the right-sided screen, it wasn't reading from the right place. It was reading from off screen. And so your bullet was probably coming from the wrong side off screen. You probably noticed that. So we're going to need to integrate this anytime that we're looking for collision data or we're writing to collision data. We're going to have to tell, are we writing or reading from collision table 2 or collision table 1? And all that is we're checking the screen that I'm on to see if it's even or if it's odd. So we'll get back to that. That was a big explanation. That's why these are taking a little bit longer, because I feel like we should explain it. And I wanted to do this as a system where we're doing it fast, but I think that's important. So back to the pre-draw. Here, I'm just going to deal with the collision table that I'm on right now, just that. So what I can do is I can do exactly what I just said. I could either load Y with temp 1. So I'm loading Yanni with temp 1. And now this was the offset that I got. So when I say offset, what I mean is if I look at my overworld, bam, I turn on my grid. Offset 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all the way to F. This is 1, 0. This is 2, 0 to 2F, 3, 0 to 3F, etc. So what tile am I talking about? That's what I actually have here. And what I can do is I can check to see if it's a certain tile. So I'm going to come back to this. I need to make a new tile type. And it's not really going to do anything. And in fact, I might need to make 2 new tile types because I want to create a locked door and I want to create a trigger, like push block trigger. So what I'll do, and I'm starting to run out of tile types, so we're pretty much maxed out with what I can do with mechanics. So let me come here and go to project labels, tile types. You can see I've got a couple left. I'm going to call this one push block trigger, and I'm going to remember that that's tile type 12, or if I wanted to do it in hex, I can even put 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. So this would be OC if I would need to remember. I just put this in here so it's easy for me to remember what it is. And then I could do push, block, lock. And I can remember that's 13 or OD. Okay, so that's just a little reminder for me, so it's easy for me to see which. You don't have to write that. I just wanted to make it really easy for me to find. So basically, when a push block touches a push block trigger, the push block is going to turn back into a block in that spot, which we already have happening. But if it's a trigger that's in that spot, it's going to make a push block lock change. It's going to look for over all the screen, and if it sees any push block locks, they're going to go away. Okay, so now before I get to that, I don't even need to assign any scripts to these other than I'm going to make this solid. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my pixel editor. I'm going to open my background tile here. And what I want to do is I want to, I'm going to open another tab. No, I don't need to. I'm going to make my door. So my door, let's see, my palette that I was using was this one, I think, right? Yeah, so my door, I'm going to make a golden door, and it's going to be a blockade. And that's going to give me an indicator that, oh, it has to do with this push block somehow. So I'm going to make just a golden door like this. Try and make it symmetrical. I usually try and keep it black around the outsides. And then I could always do something like this to sort of give it some depth, maybe. You know, and then maybe I've got like a pixel. You know what I'm going to do? Instead of that, I'm going to make it look like it is a locked door by making a little lock here. Like that. I don't know, does it look like a cross too much? I think that works. Sure, that works, kind of. I can tell. I can always go back. This is just a placeholder, so I'm going to save this. And I need something that's going to be my push block trigger too. And I should probably use the yellow too, because again, it's going to sort of indicate that the yellow thing should go to the yellow thing. So what should that look like? I'm going to make it look like a recessed sort of tile. So it'll look like this. It'll have a black outside, and then I'll use this like this, and then inside, I'm going to make a black rectangle like here, like this. So this should have the opposite kind of look. It should look like it's recessed. Instead of coming out at me, it should look like it's going in. And how do I suggest that? I mean, it's going to be kind of tricky. But let's just go with this for now. I don't love it. I'd have to suggest that somehow it's getting darker down here, but I don't want to use yellow. I mean, I could try this. Let me try this. Let me try and flip that. So let me just try to make the outside all gold like that and the inside. This might give me a suggestion that it's deeper on the inside. Yeah, I guess so. So if I use black, it kind of looks like, see, it still kind of looks like a block to me. And I'm not really sure how to suggest otherwise. But whatever. I could, maybe I could dither and make this even look more like a shadow. Like I could do this. I don't know if this will look good, but it'll look at least sort of deeper. Maybe that'll work. And maybe I even put like a little key or something like that, a little key image in black, just to really suggest to the player, hey, this is a key to open the lock. I don't know. Whatever. Fine for now. I don't want to spend all the time on the art because that's stupid. So we're not worried about the art right now. Really, we're still worrying about making it sort of functional. So now I've got this lock here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this lock like there. And then I need to make sort of brick walls around that, right? And I can even do that so it like goes behind it. I don't know. I could figure out how to make a topper for these blocks. And that would probably look better. And then I'm going to put inside here. Don't I have a diamond somewhere? Didn't I make a thing I got to collect? I can't even remember what the thing I have to collect looks like. I don't know what happened to it. I never brought it over, I guess. So, okay, let me pull my collection tile. I know I made one in my first, right? I made one here. So let me grab that. And I think the reason I didn't pull it over is because it was temporary and it didn't look very good. So I'm going to go back over here. And I'm going, I'm going to go back over here. Stop. Yeah, go back over here. Paste it in. So now I've got that. It would look like this. No, it's not going to look very good. Okay, it'll look like that. So that's fine for now. I'll save that. And I could also put the door here, I guess. That's the other thing I could do. Just refresh that. And you see I got my diamond. Make it this. I'll put right here. So now I can tell I've got to get to that diamond. And remember, when I collect all the diamonds, I go to the next screen. So I'm going to make this my prize. And you see I made it my prize. I'll make this one my lock. There. I'm going to make the other one solid. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm going to, maybe over here, I'll put my, I'll put this is where I'm supposed to put it. So I'll make this my trigger. Right there. And what I got to do is I got to make this solid. So what I'll do is I'll go into my script settings and I can see that I've got a tile right here. This was tile type number D. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D. This one. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a solid tile. So I'm going to go into game, I'm going to go to tile scripts, and I'm going to go to solid tile. It's going to do exactly the same thing as a solid tile with no differences. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it go away and be unsolid once I push the block into position. So when I walk against it, it should just be solid. Let's just test that and make sure. This shouldn't do anything, and I can't reach the diamond right now. So let's test this. So this should be solid, and I just want to check and make sure. Oh, look, my diamond's even flashing because it's the same palette as the conveyors. So that's kind of neat. And so the goal would be, and it's not going to work yet. And I hate my trigger, but maybe I should make it look like a target instead. I do that, and when I do that, this is going to go away. So let's make that happen right now. Back in our script, back in our pre-draw script, this is what I did. I want to look at all of my I want to look and see if I've landed on a trigger type. So if I do this, load collision table, Y. Now remember what I said. This will only work on even screens right now because of this where was it? The problem here. We've got two different collision tables. That's why I explained that. So it's only work on even because we're just checking collision table. We're not checking collision table 2. So it's okay. We're gonna deal with that another day. Load collision table Y, and we're gonna compare it to see is the Y spot that I'm landing on OC? Is it the trigger? And I can say, is it a push block trigger? And I'm going to say, you know what? Branch if not equal to not a trigger. So branching if not equal to not a trigger. If it is a trigger, what I need to start doing is I need to look at every tile to see if it's OD. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a jump reset because I want to make sure that this gets hit. So what should happen is I should be able to move the block until I get over to the trigger. And when I get to the trigger, it should reset the game. So come on. There we go. Come on, wake up. Oh, computer, you're being slow today. Come on. There we go. All right. Here we go. So I can push my trigger, push my push block over the trigger. And when I do push it onto the trigger, it works. Okay. So now we know that we are reaching this when we wanted to. So now what I got to do is I'm going to look at every single tile on this collision table, and I'm going to compare it to D. And if it's D, I'm going to change it to a blank tile. And we already know how to do change collision. Now that might make this too long of a routine, and we might have to invert this like we did a couple of times, make this into a BEQ is a trigger, and then jump to not a trigger so we can jump farther. But for right now, let's just do this. I'm going to now that I don't need to, deal with Y anymore. I'm going to do this. And I don't think any of this, I don't think change tile collision. I don't think that temp 1 gets corrupted here. Oh, it does. See, okay. So temp 1 does get corrupted here. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to push temp 1 to the stack and pull it at the end because I need temp 1 before I do this. So before I do anything, I'm going to load temp 1 and I'm going to push it to the stack. And at the end, I'm going to pull it from the stack and I'm going to store it back in the temp 1. So again, we're using the stack for backing up a bit of RAM. Now I'm going to go to load Y with 0. And I'm going to do this. Do lock update loop, or do check for locks loop. Okay. And something very similar. We're going to check every tile. We're going to check every tile on the screen. So we're going to say load collision table, comma Y. I'm going to compare it to the lock, which was OD. OD. If it's equal, I'm going to say do change lock. Now I'm going to do that down here. Do change lock. Awesome. If it's not equal, this would mean it's not a lock. So the tile that I'm looking at is not a lock. So what do I want to do? I want to increase Y. I'm going to compare Y to either 240 or FF. That's what it means, right? And really what I want to compare it to is if it's back to 0 because I'm sorry, it's not FF. It's F0 because there's only, we don't have 256 tiles. We have 240 because our screen is 16 by 15, not 16 by 16. The NES is only 256 pixels by 240. Sorry. So if it gets to F0, compare it CPY. So I'm comparing Y to F0. If it is equal to F0, that means we are totally done. And that means I can come down here and make a thing called totally done. All right. If it's not, what I want to do is I want to jump back to do block, do what I call it, lock update, do lock update loop. That's what I call it. So this here would be not totally done yet. Check next collision tile, right? Get it? All right. So now if I do want to change the lock, I've already got, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Y into temp 1. So, that way I can use change tile at collision. So I'm going to TYA T, Y, A. I'm transferring Y into the accumulator. I'm storing the accumulator into temp 1. And now I'm going to change tile at collision. And I want to make it 0, 0, and 0, 0. I'm going to make it the top left corner in the tile set, which is blank. And if I wanted to make it something different, like a hollowed out door or open door or something, I would change this to the number tile I want to change it to. And then this is the collision type, which is totally walkable. Now, if I want to, if I only have one lock in any screen, I'm done. This should work. If I might have more than one lock on the screen, I would have to do this again right here. And this would let me have more than one lock because it will continue no matter what to check all the collisions on the screen, even if it was a lock tile. It'll check for more. So this should work. Let's see. We're at 20 minutes, so hopefully that's perfect. Oh no! So I think what it said, I think we had branch out of range, and we kind of predicted that might happen. Branch out of range at 226 and 238. So 238 is here. I'm going to say B, not NE, not done. Oh, not done. Jump, totally done. Not done. And so I just inverted this and I made it jump this far, and then this jumps the whole way. And the same thing here. BEQ is a trigger. Jump, not a trigger, is a trigger. So I'm basically inverting the logic. Instead of not equal to, I said equal to, and I make it jump a short distance, which means if I'm here, it's not equal to, and I jump the long distance. And that should work. Come here. I know. Come here. Okay. There we go. All right. Here we go. Let's push this into position. And we should see our, if I can get under there. There we go. Uh-oh. Oh no. It worked, but it didn't change my graphic. How strange. Because I was able to get here, but it didn't change the graphic. So let's figure out why it didn't change the graphic. Strange. Let's see where it changes the graphic. So I'm going to Control T here, and you can kind of see both name tables. And if it changes the graphic, we should see it is changing the collision, but it's not changing the. Oh, you know why? I know why. So what's happening is this is actually happening in the same frame, and it can only change one tile at a time. So this module. So when this is called and then this is called in the same frame, guess what happens? It does the last one. It loads this tile. So what I could do is I could do this, JSR do wait frame. And that'll make sure that this one gets updated and it waits a frame and then it continues on. And then it should, so then we should get both frames updating. So now we know it was working because the collision absolutely changed. So now we got a push block with the target and it goes away. And right now I didn't tell it where to go. So it's going to just reset to the same screen. If I wanted to tell it where to go, screen info, I want it to go to the warp out screen. So if I wanted to go to the next screen over, I think we set this up. I think this is one of the things that got erased. It's going to go to here. I didn't make this screen yet. I think in the other tutorial I did, and I made it say like a 2 on there. Sorry that happened, but we can easily fix that just to make sure that this is working. I'm just going to put number 2 on here, a really crappy number 2, and I'm going to make him set right there. Okay. So now, just to make sure, he should go to 1, 0, and when I get that diamond, really important because this is a core mechanic, and then we're done. And then our push block puzzle is done. And I'm just going to show you that it would work with multiple locks too. So awesome, totally works. If I did the last thing we're pretty much done for today. I just wanted to show you that if we did this over here and we made this a lock block of some kind. So if I modify the attribute, it's the same thing as going to here and choosing it to modify the attribute, and I make it a lock, push block lock. Now, some of the other things that you could do. Oh no! Again, It only got rid of the one. Interesting. So come back over here. Let's make sure it gets rid of all of them. So we wait for the frame. We're going to increase Y. Totally done. If not, it's going to jump to here. Interesting. That should have worked. That is fascinating. Let me just see if I can figure out why it did that. Change dot collision. Totally done. Otherwise, it jumps to here, which comes to here. Why could it be possible that Y is getting corrupted here? It could be. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to take Y and push it to the stack. And I'm going to pull it from the stack and put it back into Y here. And to make that easy to see, what it was, backed it up, put it back. So just in case, I think Y might have been corrupted by that, which means it wouldn't have been checking all of the offsets from the collision table. That's just a guess. Let's see. If not, we're just going to have to deal with it for today and come back tomorrow. We're going to have to come back tomorrow. That is curious. So I'm going to look into that tonight. But we do have a push block puzzle going with one lock at least. So very curious. This should absolutely work. Very infuriating. So totally done. Collision table Y. Do change lock. Very strange. Okay, we're gonna end for today, and I'll look into that, and we'll tweak that on our when we come back and we're doing our fix ups late in the game. We have a bug here. We'll do that during bug testing, guys. Thank you so much for watching these. I hope you're enjoying them, and I'll find little bugs like that and why they're happening later. So thanks, and I'll see you guys for day 19, which also will happen to be Pi Day. So I have got a really hard decision to make. Do I lean into Stephen King lore, number 19, or do I reference Pi Day, or maybe both? See you then.